And when I was growing up, the only thing we had was student bullying. We didn't have the internet element. So when I went to school and I got picked on at school, there were 8 hours of my day where it was like, all right, I gotta avoid that kid, and that kid might give me a little guff, but then at the end of the day, I get to go home, I'm gonna do my homework, I'm gonna have dinner, I might watch a little TV, and then I'm gonna go to bed. I had a good 2/3 of my day where I could just decompress from all my peers. I didn't have to worry about them. And then I'd go back to school the next day and have to worry about it all over again. Well, kids these days aren't getting that same amount of time to decompress from what's going on at school because they're coming home and they're jumping on their computers, their tablets, their cell phones. They're logging into social networking sites and they're seeing what their classmates are doing all the time. But the thing about social media is that we really just put our best foot forward. We only want to post the really positive stuff. So when I go home after being teased or harassed all day and I log into social media and I see your life and your life looks so much better than my life, it can be very easy for me to think that, well, my life is the only one that's horrible. And kids can really get bogged down by those feelings. So as parents, we need to help build them up and help educate them that they are not the only ones going through tough times in life, okay? Now the definitions for these things, bullying is a repeated action. If your kiddo comes home and says somebody pushed them in the schoolyard once, technically it's not bullying because it hasn't happened repeatedly. If it's happening every day where the same kid or group of kids is pushing your child in the playground, then yes, absolutely they're being bullied. But if it's happened once, please don't run to the school and say my child is being bullied, because frankly that's not what's happening. If you want further information on this, I strongly encourage you to look up stopbullying.gov. It's a great resource for parents to see what our government says about bullying and what your rights as parents and what your child's rights really are. Educate yourself, see what's out there. Bullying, it needs to be a repeated behavior. There's an imbalance of power when it comes to bullying, and the tricky thing about that power imbalance is that it can shift day by day. One child can be the most popular, have all the cards in his hand one day, and then the next day he's down at the bottom of the totem pole again. This happens all the time. It always fluctuates with children, especially the really young ones. Bullying includes actions such as making threats, spreading rumors, attacking someone physically, verbally, or emotionally, or excluding someone from a group on purpose. And again, it has to be repeated or at least have the possibility or the potential for becoming a repeated action. Please educate yourself on what bullying is. If your child is experiencing something, be their advocate. And they will beg you not to say anything to the school. Please don't tell the principal. They're going to make me talk to the bully. It's going to get so awkward. I understand that, but I am a firm believer that if you don't bring the situation to light, it's going to stay in darkness, and darkness is where awful things thrive. Darkness is where evil lives. We have to bring things to light. Teach your children that, because otherwise they'll grow up thinking that, well, as long as I don't say anything, it's going to go away. And it doesn't go away. You have to bring it up and bring it out. Now, cyberbullying is not just this happening online. There's a little bit more to it. I know it says that cyberbullying is bullying taking place using electronic technology. However, there's more to it. It's not just any person. Nobody in this room, I don't think, can be a cyberbully because we're all over the age of 18. The law says that if you're over the age of 18 and you behave poorly online, you're classified as a cyber harasser or a cyber stalker, depending on what it is you're doing. We cannot be cyber bullies. That doesn't mean that we can't ever misbehave online, because we sure can. But our consequences are different than those for kids. Okay, because if you're under 18, it's just different. Some examples of cyberbullying includes mean text messages or emails, rumors sent by email or posted on social media. That one's a lot more common. Social media sites, embarrassing pictures being posted or videos being posted on websites, and fake profiles. Now, the really tricky thing about cyberbullying is that it's very difficult to track it. There are plenty of times where kids will make up fake sites just to harass somebody, and as soon as it comes up, as soon as it gets out there, they'll delete it. It can be very hard to track where it's coming from. However, if something gets to a certain degree of seriousness, we need to know how to get law enforcement involved, because there are ways to track things like IP addresses, and kids don't always think about that, especially when it comes to Snapchat, websites like that, where they feel like it's going to be anonymous, it's going to be over quick. There's always a way to track it, and we'll talk about that in a little bit too. Cyberbullying can happen 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, like I said. Kids aren't getting that break unless you are building it into their schedule. Are you taking devices away after a certain time of night? Are you making sure that they're not up all hours talking to different people? Are you being the gatekeepers for your child? Like I said, also cyberbullying can be anonymous and it can be very hard to trace. And really the worst part about this is that it can be incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to erase or get rid of all the cyberbullying once damage has taken place. So for example, we had a horrific situation over the weekend in Las Vegas. Someone chose to post a very foolish comment about their feelings on the situation in Las Vegas. This was a person who was, I want to say, a legal advisor for CBS. She posted a comment that she was not sympathetic to any of the victims because they are Trump supporters. It was a very foolish thing to post on social media. It was shortly thereafter deleted. However, somebody had already taken a screenshot of it, and that screenshot was saved and shared, and it has been shared over and over and over again. Her life will never be the same, because once you put something out there, you put it in somebody else's hands to control. Our children are not understanding that, and no fault of their own either, because scientifically their brains are not developed enough to make those real good, solid choices. That's why we're the parents. That's why we get to make the rules, okay? I want to tell you about Megan. Maybe some of you are familiar with Megan's story, maybe you're not. Megan Meyer was 13 years old back in 2006. Now in 2006, we didn't have Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, we had MySpace. Do we remember MySpace? It was very popular. Well, Megan was on MySpace, and she had this rule established with her parents. Her parents were very mean people who just wanted her life to be miserable. Her parents loved her very much, and they wanted to protect her. So they had this rule that they had to give permission before she could accept any friend request. Didn't matter if it was from a relative or a friend, they had to give permission. So Megan got this request one day from this boy named Josh Evans, and according to Josh Evans' MySpace profile picture, he was really cute. According to his page, he was 16 years old. Also, according to his page, he lived in the same town as her. Now, she's in junior high school, he's in high school. She was very flattered by this because, like most 13-year-olds, Megan was really struggling with self-esteem. She didn't find herself to be a beautiful young girl, which is what she was. She saw herself as stupid, ugly, not very worthy of love. Now, here comes this boy, Josh, who wants to be friends with her. Do you think she felt real good about that? Absolutely, of course, who wouldn't? She was loving the attention, but she couldn't accept that friend request unless mom or dad said yes. So she chose to go to mom, because you always want to choose the parent who's more likely to side with you. And boy, heck no, you can't accept his friend request. So she goes to mom. Mom, look at this cute guy. Can I please accept his friend request, please? And mom looked at the page, and she got that mom feeling that something was wrong. We know the feeling, right? She knew something was up, and she said, baby, I love you, but no. I'm going to go ahead and say, don't accept this one. But Megan wasn't going to take no for an answer on this friend request. She was way too flattered. So she accepted it anyway. Little girl. She spent 5 weeks building a relationship with this kid. 5 weeks where every day she'd come home, log into MySpace, and talk with Josh. And no matter what had happened at school, her life was, she was on cloud 9 all the time because Josh was making her feel really good. Mom found out that she had accepted the friend request about 2 weeks into this 5-week escapade. And instead of throwing the computer out the window or off the roof or putting it down the garbage disposal or running it over with a lawnmower, which is probably what I would have done, instead, mom just said, well, I'll keep an eye on it. Kids will be kids. Parents, be parents. If you set rules, stand by them. Make your kids obey them. Mom was keeping an eye on it, and everything seemed fine until one day Megan had a really bad day at school. She was fighting with the girls. This is junior high. Girls are all kinds of hormones, and they're a mess. They were being very mean to each other. Megan comes home, and she does not want to talk to her parents about it because parents don't understand ever, right? So she goes into her bedroom and logs into MySpace because she knows that Josh will be there for her. Josh will make her feel better. She had elevated his opinion to such a high status in her world that he was everything. But that day she logged into MySpace, and instead of seeing those warm, fuzzy, wonderful messages from Josh, now she was seeing things like, Megan, you're fat and stupid. Everyone hates you. Megan, the world would be a better place without you in it. Have a blank rest of your life. Bad rest of your life. And those are the last words that Megan ever read. As a 13-year-old, she let his opinion of her grip her so tightly that she decided to end her life that night in her bedroom. Her mom found her about half an hour later. Now, unfortunately for Megan, what she didn't understand about the situation was that she wasn't talking to this guy, because actually this guy is a celebrity. That's Josh Hartnett. That was a picture taken off of Google and put onto a fake MySpace page by a woman who actually knew Megan very well. This was Lori. Lori lived about 4 houses down from Megan. Now, Lori had a daughter who was Megan's age, and those girls had been best friends until they got into a fight over a boy, and they not only stopped being friends, they started spreading really vicious rumors about each other around school, fighting with each other, being really ugly towards each other. Now, instead of being a mature, rational adult and going to Megan's parents and saying, hey, our baby girls are having an issue that we should talk about, Lori decided to make up this fake MySpace page just to toy with Megan, to get back at her. The goal was not to push her over the edge. The goal was simply to make her hurt the way she had hurt Lori's baby girl. Healthy or unhealthy? Unhealthy. But kids are seeing the adults set this stage for them. They see way too many adults behaving this way, and they're mimicking it. So much so that MTV has made up an entire television series about this very thing. Have you heard of Catfish? Catfish is a TV show based on the premise that kids are friending or following people they don't know simply because they see a potential for relationship there. And they see the potential because someone tells them that they're pretty enough, or they're cute enough, or they're smart enough, funny enough, handsome enough, whatever enough they need to hear from strangers. What I try to explain to kids is that self-worth is a tricky thing. If you believe on a scale from 1 to 10 that you're a 1, way down at the bottom, you can't go to somebody else and say, hey, what do you think of me? Because if you tell me that I'm a 7, all right, I might feel good for a minute, but when I go back home at the end of the day and look in the mirror, when it's just me, I'm way back down to 1. So what happens when you go to somebody and say, hey, what do you think of me? And they say, oh, 1 for sure. Ooh, that's going to push me even farther down. You have to believe in your own self-worth before you start letting other people assign it to you. Otherwise, you're in for a real rocky road. And kids, they're not understanding this. As parents, we need to affirm that in them. Unfortunately for Megan's parents, back in 2006, we didn't have laws about these different cyber things that are happening. So after 3 years of trying to prosecute Lori for her actions, she was acquitted. Nothing happened. No jail time, no probation, nothing. And not even an apology for her neighbors who lost their only daughter because of her actions. Now we have those laws. If your child is experiencing something along these lines of cyberbullying, you have help. There are resources. Don't feel like there's just nothing you can do. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. There are a lot of reasons why students will bully. I think the biggest 2 reasons are power and control. Kids really want to feel like they have control over something, and if it's not their life, if it's not whatever is going on in their home life, maybe they'll look to someone at school they can feel powerful and have control over. It's that power imbalance we were talking about. Some other reasons could be negative dominance issues. Maybe they're lonely. Maybe they're angry about something. Maybe they have learned biases. That's a big one in our world today. How many students learn bias from their parents at home and take it to school with them and just spread the ugliness? It's happening all the time. Other reasons could be jealousy, wanting revenge for something, wanting attention, wanting approval from their peers. Every child wants to fit in. So if me teasing you is going to make you like me more, sure, I'll push you under that bus, no problem, because I need someone to like me. Other reasons could be entertainment value. In fact, 81% of kids who cyberbully say they do it because it's fun. Our kids are bored somehow. In this fast-paced world we have them living in, they're still looking for something to do. Are there no better options? I tell kids all the time, if you can't function online without sharing negative ugliness, get offline. There are 8 billion opinions out there, 7 billion opinions. We don't need your ugly ones. Get offline. There are plenty of other things to do. Any video gamers out here? Anybody play video games ever? No? Does anybody recognize this little cartoon character? I know someone does. Come on. Anybody? Yes. Where's my prize? I need a prize for this person. This is great. This is Lara Croft from Tomb Raider, the video game Tomb Raider. Now, some graphic artist out there designed Lara Croft to be a sexually attractive little cyber person. She was given curves in the quote-unquote right places according to our culture's standards, right? She was designed, though. I mean, nobody's waist looks like that unless you lose a rib or two, right? That's just not natural. Now, in 2009, a real person who was not designed by a graphic artist, a young lady named Caitlin Saida, chose to dress as Lara Croft from Tomb Raider for a Halloween party. Pictures were taken of Caitlin at the party that she herself chose to post to Facebook. Now, a little history on Facebook. Up until 2011, anything you shared on Facebook was only visible to your friends list, meaning nobody else could see it unless you set your page to be public. And then in 2011, they reversed it, and they made it so that everything you ever posted and everything you will post will be public unless you make it private, which I strongly suggest you do. So when this picture of Caitlin was first posted to her Facebook page, the only people who saw it were her friends and family, people who loved her, people who were happy to see her go out and have a good time at a Halloween party. Nobody ridiculed her, nobody made fun of her, they just loved her. However, in 2011, she didn't make her page private fast enough, and this picture got out. And it didn't take very long for it to go viral in the worst possible way. Caitlin was interviewed, and she said, "At first I thought it was funny because I'm a larger woman, obviously." And the caption said, "Fridge Raider," and "Ah ha ha, Lara Croft let herself go." Whatever. It was worth a chuckle. I thought it was kind of witty. Can we agree that Caitlin has a great sense of humor? She says, "Yeah, Tomb Raider, Fridge Raider, I see what you did there. Ha ha." But isn't there a line between being funny and being cruel? She goes on in the interview to say that she then started to read the comments. Some of them were just your run-of-the-mill mean stuff like, "Oh, fatty, 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 blah, blah, blah." And then they just got worse and worse and worse until it culminated into this whole, "You should kill yourself to spare everybody's eyes so that we don't have to see you because you're not pretty enough to me. Your life is not valuable. Go kill yourself." Caitlin received thousands of these ugly messages from people all over the world. Now, what my favorite part about Caitlin's story is that she did not kill herself. Bravo. Instead, she took a break from the internet for a little while. She was embarrassed, rightly so. It was mortifying to her. But after her little break, she went back online, and instead of just ignoring it, she tried to take the pictures down. She quickly realized she could not take the pictures down. There were too many copies out there. So instead, she started responding individually to each comment she saw. "Do you really think I should kill myself? Do you realize that I'm a real person? You're not just talking to cyberspace. I exist. Would you say this if I was sitting in front of you?" She started trying to educate people that they weren't just talking to nothing, they're talking to people. This was an eye-opener for me because I remember when this came across my Facebook newsfeed because a friend of mine saw it and thought it was hilarious and shared it. Now I take a second and look at things like this and I think, wow, this is a real person. If they were sitting right in front of me, would I laugh like this? It's really hard to do. But I think it's important to do. And I think it's very important to educate our children that it's important to do. Because again, they are learning everything from us. There was a video there, but it's not going to play. That's okay. There are a lot of reasons why students don't report bullying. Typically, they don't want to appear weak, or they're afraid of retaliation. Our culture has bought into this huge lie that snitches are the problem. That if I do something wrong and you rat on me, you're the bad guy. Not me, you. That's so backwards. It's so twisted. There's no justice in that. And it's causing a huge ripple effect in our world. When your child does something wrong, do you try to discipline them? Yeah, most likely. You're here tonight, that means you're involved in your child's life. I'm preaching to the choir right now because you're probably already doing this stuff. What about the other kids your child hangs around with? Are they being disciplined? When they do something wrong, are they being called on it? What about at school? Is your child's school holding children accountable for their actions? I'm seeing too many kids, I really have a hard time with this no child left behind thing, because what I'm hearing is that no matter if you pass or fail, you're going to go on to the next grade. Isn't that hurting the child? Because if I don't learn 2 + 2, how am I going to learn 4 divided by 2? There are basics you have to learn, fundamentals, foundations you have to move on to the next thing to get it. We need justice in our world. That's how things operate well. Other reasons could be that they're afraid of getting in trouble themselves, especially with the cyberbullying thing, because kids are trying to handle this stuff on their own. When someone sends me a bad message, I have 2 choices. I can ignore it and let it get worse on its own, or I can send something mean back to them and show them that I'm not going to take this. And a lot of kids are doing that. You say something mean about me, I'm going to say something mean about you. And it just perpetuates. And then when it gets to the point where they feel like I can't handle this anymore, I need help, now I go to my mom and say, hey mom, this is what's happening. Or I go to the principal or my teacher, someone I trust, and say, hey, this is what's going on. And they look at those messages and they say, wow, yeah, I can see that that person was being a bully towards you, but you were kind of being a bully towards them too. Now the child is in fear of being in trouble themselves. They don't want to be held accountable for their actions because they feel justified in what they were doing. Encourage your child not to respond to the bully. Sometimes students feel that they deserve it. I know that feeling. I was raised in a not wealthy family. I received hand-me-down clothes until I started buying my own clothes. I didn't have a lot of stuff, but I didn't have great friends in junior high either. And my parents saw that, and they decided to do everything they could to move me into a different school. That different school happened to be a private school affiliated with the church I was going to in my childhood. So here I am at this fancy school with all these kids who have lots of money. I'm there on scholarship. Now by 7th grade, my feet grew to a size 11, right? Ladies, we know average is what? 8, 9? Yeah, above average, yeah. I have gaps in my teeth, couldn't afford braces. My hair was a frizzy disaster. Girls were starting to learn how to use makeup. Not this girl. I was a wreck, absolute wreck. And the kids picked up on it fast. There's an insecure girl we can pick on. And they took advantage of it. And I remember hating junior high school. I had so many fake ear infections. As a child who grew up with big ear problems, like surgeries and ruptured eardrums, I could fake an ear infection pretty convincingly. And so I did, because I didn't want to go to school. My grades suffered. It was horrible. But I never thought that they were wrong. I never thought the kids were wrong to make fun of me because I was the poor, frizzy-haired, chubby girl from Oildale. I was the Bigfoot on campus. The day my uniform skirt got pinned up under my backpack, I could have just died that day because I was going to be picked on pretty severely for that. It was bad. What I always try to tell kids is that, number one, they don't deserve it, and number two, it will not last forever. I look back at those situations, and in the moment I thought, why am I going through this? Why is this happening to me? I look at it now and I say, it happened to me because, let me just de-police for a second. It happened to me because God had bigger plans for me, because he knew that someday I would come speak truth to thousands of children who needed to hear that message. I had one girl at a high school a couple years ago tell me that after hearing my story, she said, I've lived the same thing. Some of the things you said have happened to me too. And I had considered suicide. And after hearing your story, I feel like I can make it too. I experienced those things because God had bigger plans for me, because he knew that my voice needed to be heard by someone down the road. And it can be very challenging in those moments to realize that there is a future and that something is bigger and it's coming. You have to wait for it. Educate your kids. Encourage them daily, hour by hour if necessary. They need to hear it from you. Now in junior high, your kids are probably going to push you away. I had some parents raise their hand. They've got junior high kids. Your junior high kids are probably not going to want to talk to you. So point them in the direction of someone you trust. Don't just hope that they're going to gravitate towards someone positive. Point them towards someone Invite someone over for dinner every weekend or however often you can. Plant someone in their life who is going to speak truth to them, the kind of truth that you agree with, the kind of truth that you want them hearing, because they will not always want to hear it from you. Don't just hope they're hearing it from someone. Come on, clicker. Here we go. Encourage your child not to respond. If bullying is happening, encourage them not to respond. My favorite thing to tell kids is a very famous quote from a great movie, Bambi. If you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. It goes both ways, whether you like someone or you don't like someone. Make that your habit. And again, as parents, we have to model this stuff. I tell kids a little bit more concisely that you can be kind or you can be quiet. Make those your choices. You can't say something nice, don't say anything else. Kind or quiet. It can save you from so much drama. Not just the kids, us adults. We have to model that. Talk to your kids and help build their self-esteem. The things you say, you are going to be the voices in their head for the rest of their lives. Anybody else ever hear your parents talking to you still? Yeah. Oh my word, my dad. Never tear a fence down till you know why it was put up. Yeah, I know, Dad. Said it a million times. Avoid non-neutral locations. Yep, I know. All right. The things that you say to your children, they will hear for the rest of their lives. Speak truth to them, even when they push you away. Mom, just stop saying that, Mom. You're being ridiculous. No, keep saying it. They need to hear it. If they're being cyberbullied, every site makes it pretty easy to report the situation and to block the bully. If you are unaware of how to do either of those things, I promise you there's a YouTube video for it. Be a YouTube universityer because it makes a difference. If it's getting to a point where you have to reach out to law enforcement for help, if they're getting death threats or threats of physical violence, make sure you're preserving evidence. I had a dad reach out to me not that long ago and say that his son had received a text message where he was going to be killed at this time, this place, this location. And the dad's going, oh my goodness, what do I do with this? I said, well, we could file a report. Do you have that text message? And he said, no, I deleted it. I didn't want him to read it over and over again. I went, ugh. Did you take a screenshot first? Anything? No. Okay, well, the DA won't play he said, she said. So, I mean, if it happens again, save it. But what I'm telling you is you need to preserve that evidence. Take a screenshot of it. Send that screenshot off to a different device and then delete it from your child's device because I don't want them to go back and reread it over and over again. That dad was right, because the more they read those messages, the more it impacts their heart. Protect your children. We know that there are severe impacts from bullying. These are some of the impacts felt by the kids who get bullied. Depression, low self-esteem, health problems, poor grades, know that one. Suicidal thoughts, or even death. This is real stuff. However, I like to point out that it's not just the kids who get bullied who suffer the consequences, it's also the kids who do the bullying. There's one study where this group looked at a bunch of boys, men, I guess they were men at the time, and what they found was that the men that they could classify as bullies between 6th and 9th grade, 60% of them were convicted of at least one crime by the age of 24, while 40% had 3 or more convictions. This is not to say that if you are a bully, you will become a criminal. However, this study found that right around 50% did just that. They started as schoolyard bullies, they ended up as criminals. This is a very serious thing, and it's serious because in life we set patterns for ourselves for how to handle situations. And unfortunately, our kids are setting very destructive patterns. I don't like you, I pick on you. You do something to make me angry, I'm going to get onto social media and do something to make you angry. And unfortunately, someday these kids who are teaching themselves those patterns will grow up and they will get jobs. Anybody ever have a job where you have a coworker you don't really like? I sure have. And in those jobs, I didn't get to go online and start berating that coworker. I'm so thankful I didn't have that pattern set for my life, because if I had, it would have been a whole lot harder to bite my tongue, which is exactly what adults have to do sometimes. Teach your kids to set better patterns than the one they're learning from their friends right now, because they are very, very destructive in the long run. This is the hard one for parents. Stop and evaluate your child. Is your child being a bully? a cyberbully? Are they participating in this action? I like to spot check my stepson's devices. I have he's going to be 14 next week. This is crazy. Almost 14-year-old kiddo in my house. And I like to spot check his stuff. Well, once I found a text message from a time when he was over in Washington, D.C. for his 8th grade trip. Now, they're over in D.C. and they went to the Holocaust Museum. And one of his friends thought it would be funny to send a little GIF of Hitler doing his Hail Hitler sign. And I saw that GIF and I thought, please tell me you didn't encourage this. Please tell me you didn't respond with something like, ha ha, that's so funny. Please tell me you're better than that. And I scrolled down to his response, and he said, that's not funny. Good kid, got a good kid. So happy. I was so happy because he was making a right choice. Has he always made right choices? No. Have we had words because of his wrong choices? Absolutely, yes. And I will have words with him every time he chooses to make a wrong choice because he needs someone speaking truth into his life about the hard things. Bless his heart, he's a freshman this year. I go into the freshman classes at most schools and I give this presentation, a little different, but this presentation. I talk about things like sexting and pornography, I'll get to in just a few minutes. I asked him after the presentation, what did you think? He said, I thought it was really thought-provoking. Who are you? This is great. What was thought-provoking about it? Let's talk. And we have these conversations about all the awkward stuff. So I ask him, who's talking to you in your life about pornography? Are your friends looking at pornography? What is it you like to do? And he said, well, no one talks to me about that stuff. This kiddo has 4 adults in his life, 4 parent figures, if you will. Mom, dad, stepmom, stepdad. And I'm the only one who's talking to him about it. That makes me think that how many other families are we just not having that conversation? How many other families are just hoping that their kid will make the right choices? You have to be the one to educate them. Encourage your kids to think before they speak. This is one of my favorite acronyms, and I use it in my own daily life, and it's kept me out of a whole lot of horrible situations because I got a mouth on me. I can say things. I am witty and sarcastic, and sometimes a little foolish with my words. But if I stop and think, are my words true, helpful, inspiring, necessary, and kind? If they're not those things, I don't want to say them. I certainly don't want to post them because my whole job could be at stake if I do that. I like my job. I want to keep my job. I also like people for the most part, and I'd like to maintain healthy, positive relationships with people. So sometimes I just have to button up. Kind or quiet. Teach them to stop and think before they speak, post, or text. Ask some serious questions. Could my message be hurtful or offensive? Does the LOL, JK really make it an okay message? Or is it pretty mean still? I always tell kids that, once you get out of preschool, it's okay to tell them the truth, that they do not have to be friends with everyone. I worked at a preschool. I know you need to tell the little ones that because otherwise they pinch and pull hair. It's like, no, be friends with everyone, okay? Once they're out of that age range, tell them the truth. You do not have to like everybody. You do not have to be friends with everybody. If you are, kudos. I still don't understand how to do that. However, every person matters to someone. Every person deserves respect. So if you wouldn't say something to someone you care about, don't say it to anybody else. Because you may not like them, but I guarantee you someone does. It's that treat others the way you want to be treated kind of thing, the golden rule. Remind your kids that still matters even as they get older. Set the example by living that in your daily life because they're watching you. All right, online safety. We're getting through this. We're almost done. Do you recognize any of these sites? Most of these sites? All of these sites? No? Maybe? There's only a couple more. Oh, my word. There we go. This is a small sample of what's out there. Anybody else feel a little overwhelmed by this? Huh? I look at this and go, oh my gosh. What do they have access to? What are they doing? A lot of these sites are encouraging anonymous interactions. You don't have to say who you are. You don't know who you're talking to. You're just putting stuff out there. And the kids are eating it up every single day. And sometimes it's eating them up because they're making themselves very vulnerable to different opinions. If you see a site up here that you're kind of wondering, what on earth is that? You can ask me afterwards, and I promise you I know some of them. I can't remember all of them. I can't keep up. I'm getting past this age, and it's just too much sometimes. But I will tell you that all I Googled to find these was popular tips or popular apps for teens. And then I also Googled dangerous apps for teens. Every single one of these will pop up. And there are articles upon articles about what parents need to know about these different apps. It doesn't take a whole lot of research for you to find answers for all of them, okay? Feel free to ask me afterwards, after the presentation, if there's one that you really need to find out about right now. Being safe online, and again, you will model this as parents. Your children are watching what you do. So limit the amount of personal information you share on social media. It's very important to limit what you share. I have too many friends who are buying houses for the first time, buying new cars all the time, and taking great pictures in front of them. Here's our new house with the address. It doesn't take a great detective to figure that out. And then they post things like, oh man, hubby got me the new diamond earrings for Valentine's Day. Isn't he the sweetest? And then, hey, we're going on vacation. Cabo, what's that? And people are being a little naive, thinking it would never happen to me. We had a young lady in Bakersfield checking at the movies, not even a vacation, just the movies with her family, here to see whatever popular movie is out. 2 hours later, the family gets home and their house had been burglarized. 2 hours. It didn't take a week of vacation, it took 2 hours. Now, I don't believe in living your life in fear. I don't believe that you should be so afraid of what could happen that you never experience what is happening. Live life, enjoy it, but try to be smart about what you share. Use past tense for posts. Loved the movie we just saw, had a great time on vacation. Past tense. Wait to post those things until you get home. Never meet anyone face-to-face whom you only know online. Can't stress that enough. If you must meet someone in person that you only know through the internet, please be very smart about it. And what I mean by that is go somewhere very public, not a park, not somewhere where if you start screaming, no one's going to turn around and look. I'm talking about like the police department lobby. A very common reason that people meet up with strangers in person is to buy or sell something. Okay, here's the scenario. If I have my iPhone and I want to sell it, and you say, hey, I want to buy your iPhone. We're on Let Go, and you're saying, I want to give you the money for the phone, right? I say, great. Meet me at the police department lobby, 1601 Truxton. And you look at me and say, I'm not going to the police department. Why? Why? I've just vetted you a little bit. That's a good thing. If you say to me, sure, I'll meet you at the police department, no problem. Great. I'll get to the police department and I'll say, hey, desk officer, I'm here to sell my iPhone. There's a guy coming to meet me for it. Just so you're aware, there's not a drug deal going on. This is just a phone. It's all it's good, okay? He's going to say, great. Peace be with you. It's going to be good. I meet up with you. You try to take the phone without giving me the money. Good luck. We've got lights, cameras, witnesses, and an armed officer right there. You're not going to get very far with my phone and get away with this crime, okay? If the police department is not quite your jam, no personal offense taken, go somewhere like Starbucks or McDonald's. They've also got lights, cameras, and witnesses. If someone tries to assault you in a McDonald's, people are going to be right there. They're going to be paying attention because screaming is not supposed to be happening in McDonald's, right? But we had a gentleman here in Bakersfield summer before last who wanted to sell his bicycle. Not anything that was worth $1 million, certainly nothing that was worth his life. He decided to meet up with someone at the park at Riverwalk, thinking it's a nice part of town. Bad things don't happen in nice parts of town. He met up with this person, shots were fired, the bike was taken, he got no money for it. That was a bad idea. If you must buy or sell something, please be very, very careful about how you go about those transactions and set that example for your children because they're thinking that like Xboxes are worth meeting up with someone to buy or sell. And their lives are worth so much more. Don't let somebody pressure you into doing something that you think is a bad idea online. For kids, what I mean by this typically is the sexual extortion that happens. Someone says to them, I have this information against you, and unless you send me a picture of your body, I'm going to share it with everybody. because you've already posted what school you go to. I can share it with everyone in the school's email system. I can share it with your parents because I know where you live. I can share it with whomever. So the kids are like, oh my gosh, I better take a picture. So they take a picture and they send it off, and now the person says, great. Now you're going to send me more pictures, or you're going to send me money, or I'm going to share this picture with everyone I just mentioned before. Kids are not thinking things through, and they do these things. They fall for this stuff, and they end up in very, very dangerous situations. What I mean for adults, because don't think that you're free and clear because you're a grown-up. Adults get suckered into scams every single day. Someone calls you and says, this is the IRS, and we're going to send officers to your house if you don't da-da-da-da-da-da. People fall for this stuff. People lose thousands and thousands of dollars because someone has tricked them into being afraid for nothing. I promise you those places are not going to call you. They're going to send you a letter first. They might reach out to you, but they're not going to be demanding things on the spot. Don't let somebody pressure you into doing something online or over the phone that you think is a bad idea. Do your due diligence. Figure things out. A very current example of all this extortion stuff, you know who Kevin Hart is? The comedian. He had an affair. He got this girl pregnant. The girl said, you're going to send me money, or I'm going to tell everybody what happened. She had power over him because it was a secret. And he said, you know what? I'm not going to let you ruin my life. I'm not going to let you have that power over me. I'm going to confront this. I'm going to confess. I did this. I made a mistake. However, you don't get to own me because of that mistake. I love the ownership he took for that. Do I love that he did it? No. But are we all human? We mess up? Absolutely. Own your mistakes. Be forthcoming with them. Set that example for your children. Talk to your kids about what they're doing online. I know it is all a foreign language. I just got on Snapchat because the police department got Snapchat. I think this is a very amusing thing. I don't snap. I don't know anything about Snapchat at all. However, I'm on Snapchat for work now, and I'm going, buttons, and I don't know what to do. I feel very, very inept. However, it's very important to understand what your kids are using. So if they're using a specific app and you're looking at it, go, oh, it's just too complicated for me. I want to challenge you to challenge yourself to get very, very in-depth with that app. Know what it's about. Know how it's used. With things like Snapchat, they're always developing something new. Now it's location. If your child is using Snapchat and you feel like you've got a pretty good handle on it, are you aware that their location is on all the time so that wherever they snap, it's pinpointing where they are? And if you're not aware of that, get familiar and turn it off. Turn it off. Not good information to share. Furthermore, make your sites private. Again, model this for your children. Don't be public with things. Unless you are a very talented, almost celebrity and you have a career to work on, don't make your sites public, okay? Make them private. Don't check in places for those reasons I talked about with vulnerability. Trust your gut. That's especially important for parents because your gut is more developed than your child's gut. I tell kids the same thing. Trust your gut. Listen to your moral compass. And they kind of look at me like I've got lobsters crawling out of my ears, like, huh? Okay. Parents, if you feel that something is wrong, it's probably wrong. Pay attention to those feelings and stand up for them. The listen to your moral compass thing, I explained to kids that that means that if you wouldn't want somebody finding out what it is you're doing, that's because you know you shouldn't be doing it in the first place. We know right from wrong. It's important to act on that knowledge. If they're having to keep their cursor on X, or if we as adults are having to keep the cursor on X to close out of that page before anybody walks in and sees it, it's because we know it's wrong. We shouldn't be there in the first place. Set that example for your kids and reiterate to them all the time. They do know right from wrong. Listen to that little inner voice. And then again, I say it bold on the second page, talk to your kids about what they're doing online. Talk to them all the time, even if it's something you don't understand, even if it's something you don't necessarily like. My stepson loves Minecraft. A couple years ago, he tried to teach me Minecraft. I don't care about Minecraft. I don't like Minecraft. It's not what I do. But he was really excited to show it to me. So I sat there and went, okay, all right, now go back and do that again. And I tried to learn it because I think it's important for him to know that I'm going to listen to those things. Listen and talk to your kids, even at the end of a long day, even when they're asking for the 10 millionth time why the sky is blue. No matter what, talk with them. Because the more you have those silly conversations, the more likely it is they're going to talk to you about the not so silly conversations. They're going to talk with you as they get older. Don't block them out. We know that predators exist. After that first video, there's a slide on it that says that there are over 750,000 registered sex offenders in the United States. Those are just the ones that have been caught and prosecuted, right? There's a whole lot more out there. Now, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, we call them NCMEC, they created a website called Cyber Tip Line so that people would have a place to report suspected online child sexual exploitation. I apologize if this slide is not up to date as far as the years go, but let me give you a little history. Cyber Tip Line was created in the late 90s. It's about 20 years old now. Now, since its inception about 20 years ago, it has received 12.6 million reports of suspected online child sexual exploitation. Now look at this slide where it says in 2014, there was a record 1.1 million reports submitted. And then in 2015, that record was shattered with more than 4.4 million reports. Now think about this. In 20 years, they've received 12.6 million. In 2 years alone, almost half of those reports came in. And I guarantee you 2016 was not nicer. This is a huge problem, and predators know that kids are putting compromising content out there. And those pictures that are being shared are not just being shared amongst those two peers that maybe kid A has a crush on kid B, so look at my body and tell me I'm attractive, right? Instead, they're being sold or shared to other people who are putting them on pornographic websites. And if a child is under the age of 18, it's considered child pornography. This is a very, very dangerous thing that you need to be aware of as parents, and I'll tell you why. Sexting is the act of sending explicit, which can be semi-clad or fully nude photographs of your child or others through text messages, mobile devices, or over the internet. The part that says your child, again, not talking about adults taking inappropriate pictures of their children. What I am talking about is any person under the age of 18, because by law they're considered a child, therefore it is child pornography, even though it's their body and their phone. It is a felony to produce, possess, and or distribute child pornography. It can result in jail time, probation, having to register as a sex offender, or the parents could be actually held civilly liable. What I mean by that is if mom and dad pay the bill for the cell phone, legally they are the ones who own the child pornography. This is a hugely dangerous game kids are playing. Not just because of the immediate social and emotional consequences, but because of the potential legal consequences, and then the future down the road. What happens when you marry someone and then that picture pops up again? I was talking to a dean at a school who said a young lady who had graduated 6 years before this, a picture she had taken and shared was circulating again. They were sharing it again 6 years later. They don't just go away, and kids are not understanding that. When you send the picture, you lose all control over who has access to it, and it will not just disappear. We are seeing way too many examples of kids who are just being crushed by this kind of thing. Just this last summer, a young lady had a picture taken of her when she was in the shower, a young girl from Florida. I don't know if she took the picture or if somebody else took the picture, but one way or another, her picture of her body ended up on Snapchat. She was so devastated, so embarrassed, so crushed, she committed suicide because she thought my life will never get better. I can never undo what happened. Everyone's always going to paint me this way now. They're feeling like finite things are happening because of the moment they're in. We have to keep reminding our kids that there is a future beyond our mistakes. Will it maybe always be there? Possibly. But can you move forward anyway? Absolutely. This does not have to define you for the rest of your life. And I always encourage kids that if they have engaged in this kind of stuff, it does not have to keep happening. They don't have to keep doing it just because they did it once. But we have to talk to our kids. Don't just assume that they're learning this stuff from the right people, because again, odds are they're not. I'm going to skip that video, I think. Yeah. Is there sound for it? Sorry for all the video issues I'm having tonight. It's the way it goes sometimes.
Well, we all remember being young and wanting to be accepted in our friendships and when we started dating. But today's pressures are more intense, with just about every 12-year-old having a cell phone with a camera and access to social media around the clock. Researchers found that 1 in 4 teenagers has sent sexually explicit pictures of themselves to someone else. But a Woodbury girl believes that the real number is much higher. She says as a 12-year-old, her 7th grade crush quickly asked her for naked pictures. Tonight, Michaela shares her personal story and her advice for parents with WCCO This Morning anchor Jason DeRusha.
I thought we loved each other, and turns out he didn't love me at all. He just used me for what he wanted.
In some ways, Michaela Snyder's story is not much different than any of ours in 7th grade. In love and eager to please.
And I just wanted to make him happy because I thought that's what I was supposed to do.
But one thing is different about Michaela's story: the cell phone. In 2012, nearly 70% of 7th graders have one of their own.
He wanted pictures from me. He wanted to see my body.
How long were you guys together before he started asking for pictures?
Like a month and a half, maybe, at the most. And he just texted me one day and said, "Hey, you should do this." And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, if you love me, you're going to do it. And if you don't, then I'm going to leave you."
He was that direct about it.
Yeah.
They can handle it.
Grant and Melanie Snyder thought their daughter would be ready for this moment.
We thought we had had enough conversation with our kids that they knew better than that.
But it wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough.
Did you have like a best friend where you were telling her what was going on?
I had a group of friends, and they all said, "Oh, that's normal. Like, we do it." So
7th grade girls? And they all thought it was normal. Wow.
And so Michaela took a picture of herself in her underwear and tapped send.
In that moment, when you took the picture and you sent it, did you know this is a bad idea?
yeah, I did know it was a bad idea, but I didn't care. I thought, if he's going to love me and he's going to stay with me, then that's fine. I don't care.
Like many parents, the Snyders spot checked their teenagers' phones. Melanie found those texts.
Shock, disbelief, at the time anger.
You knew better, didn't you?
Because my dad's a cop.
Minneapolis Police Sergeant Grant Snyder investigates juvenile sex crime.
You know, if that can happen to a cop's kid, that could happen to anybody.
Michaela's parents went to the boy's parents, but she was the one paying the price.
And I was tripped in the hallways, and people were talking about me online.
People really told you that you should kill yourself because the truth came out?
Yeah.
2 years later, Michaela has finally forgiven herself, and she's sharing her story as a warning.
I want girls to realize that we are worth more than our bodies, and I want parents to not be naive that, oh, my kid's too good. My kids, they're too good. They're not going to do that.
Our children are faced.
There's a little bit more to that interview, but for the sake of time and in case anybody has some questions, I wanted to cut it short. But all these different videos you can find on YouTube, and if you're not quite sure what to search for, again, I'm happy to give those answers after the presentation. But it is important to know that this is what your kids are up against. This is the world they're living in. I try to keep a finger on the pulse of what's going on. I talked to a couple officers, maybe even 6 months ago. They were telling me about a group of 5th grade students who were taking pictures of their bodies and sharing them with each other because that's what kids do, because they thought it was normal. 5th grade. They're going to learn it from someone. I hope they're learning the truth from you or from someone that you know and trust. And I hope that they are hearing it over and over and over again. This is one of the things that I hear in my head because my dad said it over and over and over again. Wrong is wrong, even if everyone's doing it, and right is right, even if no one's doing it. Character, ethics, morals, it matters. When I first started dating my now husband, bless his heart, the man would litter every now and then out of his truck. Wrong is wrong, even if everyone's doing it. All right. Hey, sweetie, I saw that this bag fell out of your car truck window, and I thought I'd pick it up for you and give it back. True story. And he looked at me like, who are you? What are you talking about? And I said, well, you know, it's wrong to litter. We shouldn't do that, right? He went, fine. And he started throwing things away at home now. Everybody litters. That doesn't mean you have to too. You can do right even though everybody else is doing wrong. Encourage your kids to do the same. Set the example for them, because they're hearing what you say and they're watching what you do and they're learning how to navigate the world. And the world is a weird, scary place right now. They need really good role models. If there is something that you want to discuss further but you don't have time tonight, this is my email address. You are more than welcome to reach out to me via email. I have a lot of parents, they think they're being really funny, saying, come to my house and have dinner with us and just talk to my kid. Don't offer it if you're not going to really offer it, because I will be in your kitchen eating with your family, talking to your child if you ask me to, because I firmly believe I am passionate about this topic for a reason. And I believe that every child needs to hear this stuff. Okay? Let me be a resource to you. That's what I'm here for. I'm in this community because it's my community. I talk about this subject because I care about it. I don't hand this presentation off to anybody if I can possibly help it, because they're not going to handle it with the same kind of passion and care that I'm going to handle it with. If your child's school needs to hear it, odds are I've been there, but I can go back. Please talk to your child's school. Say, hey, I heard this presentation. I want my child to hear it, and I want all the other students at my child's school to hear it. Take advantage of me, please. At this time, are there any questions?
I was overwhelmed personally with the slide that had all these websites. So do we have like a kind of a list of it or something?
That's a great idea. I should make a list of it.
Personally, I know maybe a handful of them, but I mean, even talking about security, when I catch the phone of my child or anything, I should at least know the icon, how it looks like, or anything like that, so I can be looking out for something.
Yes.
I personally would like to have.
That's a great idea, and
like a
I
copy.
will work on putting that together. Now, with that in mind, I want to show you all something, because that brings up a great topic, and this is something that I installed on my phone because I thought it was so great and terrifying. It's terrifying. We all have calculators on our apps, right? Ha ha to every math teacher, whoever said you're not going to have a calculator with you all the time, because I have a calculator with me all the time now. All right. There's an app that looks and acts just like a calculator. You know, it's going to be hard for some of you to see, but does this look familiar? Looks like every calculator you've ever seen on your phone? Okay. So if I do 2 plus 2, it gives me 4. It's a calculator. However, if I put in my super secret code here, it's going to take me to a secret photo album. Pictures in this album are nowhere else on my phone. They're just in this app. Secret hiding apps. It's called Calculator Plus. All you have to do is search for secret apps, or apps that let you hide things, or any number of keywords will bring up apps that kids are downloading and using to keep things private from you. If you start noticing duplicate apps on your child's phone, why do you have 2 calculators? Investigate. Get really familiar with gigabytes, megabytes, kilobytes. If something like a calculator is taking up a megabyte, we got a problem. What is this app? Snoop, investigate. Your child does not have privacy rights. I love when I go to schools and tell kids that, 'cause they're like, yes, I do. Yes, I do. Like, no, you don't. No, you don't. You really don't. Your parents have the rights. You have the right to be under your parents' rule for the next however many years until you reach 18, period. I tell kids they need to share their passwords with you. If you're the kind of parent who really wants to be involved, make sure you are also a gatekeeper for every app they have by making up the passwords. If the password changes, the app goes away. You don't get to have secrets from mom and dad. If you want other ideas, things like, I had a mom the other night at a parent presentation tell me that the Wi-Fi router for her house, it's in her bedroom, right by her headboard. Every night when she goes to bed, she unplugs it. No one has Wi-Fi in the house after mom goes to bed. Great idea. Another great idea, charging stations, a charging tower. If you have a charging tower in your bedroom, every device in the house is going to be sleeping in mom and dad's room in the charging tower. That's going to keep your kids from being on their tablets, their phones, their computers late at night because everything's in your bedroom. Don't buy your kids smart TVs. Oh my goodness. We made a huge mistake. Bought our 13-year-old a smart TV. Ooh. I lose sleep at night sometimes worrying about what he might be watching while we're asleep because that thing has the internet. It's everything. Be very active in what your child is doing because there's just too much out there. Educate yourself on what's out there. If you feel that something could be happening, look into it. If you know of something, talk with the other parents in your sphere because maybe your kid's not doing it, but maybe their kid is. Maybe they need to hear about it from somebody. Don't assume that everybody knows about this. I assumed that everybody knew about the calculator apps because I learned about it. Excuse me. I learned about it in college. So I thought, okay, this is a very common thing. No, it's not. I also learned from some officers that there are apps that do the same thing for your entire operating system, where when I pull up my passcode and I go to punch it in, if I put in one passcode, it opens up my good account. If I put in my other passcode, it opens up my bad account, my only for me account. There's all kinds of technology out there. Get very familiar with what's out there. Yikes, I should put a list together. It's scary. That list will be ever growing because that's what technology does. Any other questions? No one in the back over there or a couple? You're getting all warmed up. I like it.
So if the kids by mistake they send something, being mean or something, can anybody take this against them? I mean, they are less than 18, and they do it. Maybe they get angry or they did something like if he said, oh, "This is funny," it can be taken against him or against them or whatever.
It's going to depend on circumstances, intention, repetition. If it's going to be repeated, if it's a one-time thing, we can classify that as a mistake. If they're doing it over and over again, that's intentional, and there could be consequences for that. If they're genuinely making a mistake, if they've just been impulsive and lashed back at someone who's maybe lashed out at them, thank you. Hacking up a lung over here, then it could just be that there's this one situation, one time kind of thing. But that's something that you as a parent, you should talk with them about. I don't think that we should all wait for the schools to step in and intervene or law enforcement to step in and intervene. As parents, you are the first responder for your child's life. So if you're noticing something, if you're seeing that they're behaving a certain way, set some boundaries for them. Say, we're not going to behave this way, and talk with them about the why. Kids need to know that you can and can't do this and that, but they also need to know why you should and shouldn't do this and that. So educate them on those things. But again, that comes down to repetition and intention. I'll pass the mic up here next.
Okay, my question would be, I'm not very I'm not
technology.
I don't know where to go look and find apps and research. And my question would be, if I wanted to snoop in my kid's phone when they're watching or not watching, they might have deleted emails or texts or photos or anything that they have done, You don't have full access unless you're watching them 24 hours.
Right.
So is there anything that you can trust that we can either download or access, if you might say?
Yeah, I've been trying to research different products like that. I found one the other day called Teen Safe, and it does that very thing, where it connects your phone to their phone, so anything that comes in on their phone, it's going to come on yours too, and you'll see everything they do, whether it's deleted or not. Also, with those kinds of things, if you check your phone records, the bills, the statements, you can see what's coming in and what's going out. And if you start noticing that there are discrepancies in the numbers of phone calls or text messages, you can absolutely bring that to your child's attention. Maybe you can even request more of the in-depth data from the telephone company. But all of these things, I recommend Google. I Google a lot of things because I'm right there with you, not very tech savvy in a lot of ways. So I want to make sure I'm just going straight to Google and typing in, just try several different keywords. How can I track my kids' activity on their phones? How can I see what's deleted? I saw there was a TV program on our Netflix account that kept popping up in our recently viewed stream. And I thought, no one's recently viewed this, and it's not something that I would want anybody in the house to view at all. So I went to my stepson and said, hey, did you watch this? He says, no, didn't watch this. Well, I then Googled it. How do you know if someone's watched something on Netflix? And I got this how-to to get into my account and see who's been watching certain things. And sure enough, his TV with a date and time stamp of when it was accessed came up. You can't lie to me, kiddo, and say that you didn't watch this because the evidence is right here. But I'm a Googler. I Google everything, try to just do the step-by-steps, because there's usually a step-by-step for most things. So I would encourage you to take advantage of Google.
Rachel, can I add 2 things?
Yes, sir.
I don't know about AT&T and T-Mobile, but Verizon, Jasmine and I were just looking at this. Verizon offers for $5 a month a Safe Family Plan, where you can control when your child's phone turns on and off every night, remotely, wherever. It'll give you a map where the phone is at any time. You can control what your kids are allowed to download. In addition to the iPhone security features that every iPhone has, you can even have even more control over the phone than that. So contact your cell phone company for a small fee. I think it's worth it for the safety of our kids. You can add all of these extra features. The other thing is, I was recently at a Google training, and if you go up to your kids and they're on the phone and they suddenly close all of these browser windows, have you ever seen that? You go up to your kids and all of a sudden click, 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 and they shut everything down. That's not gone. Even if it's not stored in the history, if you go up to the keyboard and you hit Control T, it opens up every tab that was just open. And so you can see everything, even after your kid leaves the computer. You can go back, open up the browser, Control T. You can see everything, every single browser window that they watched.
Great. This is what parent meetings are all about, the networking with other parents. That's great. Question right here.
So this goes back to the cyberbullying. I myself have been cyberbullied in high school and junior high. But something I've noticed, like amongst like the kids I teach at Sunday school and all, is that even if it's like they don't have a cell phone or they're not doing it like in that moment, they like come up to me and they say, hey, Auntie Mary, I had this one kid call me, I don't know, like blah, 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 and I don't know how to handle it. And hearing these things come out of a second grader's mouth is very frightening to me, and I don't know how to respond to that. So, any tips?
Again, I think it helps to reaffirm their self-worth. Ignoring behaviors like that, talking to parents about behaviors like that, and again, kids will beg you to not take it further. I remember begging my parents not to take a bullying situation down to the school because the school was going to make us talk about it. My parents said, we're taking it to the school. And they, sure enough, brought me and the other kids into the room, and we all had to have this nice sit-down heart to heart, and it was very awkward. But they didn't pick on me after that. They stayed back for the most part. Was there an occasional situation? Yes, but overall, things got a whole lot better. For second graders,
like I've been hearing words that I didn't even know a second grader should know.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. It's always good to also reaffirm that, you know, we shouldn't say certain things, and if you hear those things, it's okay to point out that maybe that person shouldn't be saying them. Tattling is not the same as telling, so I try to educate little ones on the difference between those things. Yeah, it's such a case-by-case kind of situation, but for second graders, I would take it to the parents, let them know what's going on. I'm sure you did that. It's like being a mandated reporter without being a mandated reporter, but it's so important. Yeah, I would encourage them to not listen, to ignore it, and to never ever repeat those words.
But most of your examples were kind of talking about children 12, 13, 14. Do you, in your experience, see the same pattern of issues, and is it at the same frequency in children 16, 17? I mean, at what age does it get better, or does it?
So the way brain development works and everything I've researched shows that for females, your brain is not fully developed until you're between the ages of 21 and 24 or so. And for males, it's around 24 to 27-ish. They've got a little bit longer journey. No offense, guys. It's science. Don't be mad at me. They're going to continue to make kind of riskier behavior. They're going to take riskier chances with less regard for the consequences. It does start to get better as they get a little bit older. However, there's all kinds of other things that could influence it. Trauma. Has a child been exposed to some kind of trauma in their life? And trauma can be anything. It's not just the things you might automatically think of. It could be someone telling them that they're stupid. It could be someone, just a defining moment in their life that can keep them from making really healthy decisions as a young adult. However, the short answer, I guess, would be that yes, it does start to get better as they get a little bit older. They start to think more about other people's feelings. Empathy starts to come into play around that age, 16, 17 or so. But still, they're so focused on me and now, they're not looking at the long term until they get to be closer to 18, 19, and then really big picture a little bit later on. So, yeah. Definitely the 11 through 13 age range is a huge time for all these horrible behaviors. They just don't think about it.
I just find it interesting because we keep buying phones for our children, and we buy them younger and younger, and
yes.
they're not it's not developmentally appropriate for them to handle it.
Right, yep. If you must be connected to your child by phone at all times, Disney makes a great track phone. There are still flip phones out there. Your child does not have to have the latest iPhone. No matter what they tell you, they don't have to have it. You don't have to give it to them, because you're right, there's way too much out there accessible to them when they have that technology in their hands. And like I said, we've got younger and younger kids behaving this way because they not only are seeing the examples from older children, they're giving access, or they're being given access by having these devices. So I would encourage you to really limit it. It's also very interesting to look at Silicon Valley up north, where Apple products are developed. The people in Silicon Valley don't give their children tablets or smartphones. Did you know that? The people creating this stuff are not giving it to their children because they know how dangerous it is. They make their kids use books, old-fashioned books, because they know that that's smarter for them. Interesting, they're not sharing that information with us, right? It hurts their bottom dollar. Yes, ma'am.
So what's the right age, you think?
It comes down to the child's maturity level. She asked, what's the right age to be given a smartphone? My stepson was given a smartphone by his mom. I think it's foolish for him to have it because it's already created some issues. I found an Instagram account on his phone through his email that was not the Instagram account that I was familiar with, that I was following for him. So I asked him about it, and he said, well, my friend's mom said that he wasn't allowed to have an Instagram, so I gave him my email address. I said, well, if that's the truth, we have a couple big issues. But I really don't think it's the truth. I think you just made this up, and you don't want to be caught having pornography on your phone, so you'd rather push blame off on somebody else, Mr. 11-year-old. I don't think it's smart to give very young children these crazy devices. I think it depends on the child's maturity level. My ideal age, 16, 17, maybe. I had the basic cell phone that belonged to my mom. I got to take for concerts and different outings with friends. The one with Snake on it. Remember that phone? You could change the plate cover on it. It was cute. I had that phone when I was 16, and even that I was a little foolish with. I can't imagine if somebody had placed one of those things in my hand. Now, when I became an adult and I started paying for things, I started caring about things a little bit more. Different story. Maybe I would have been ready for one around 17, 18, but even then, just talk to your kids, educate them as much as you can, educate yourself as much as you can, and keep spot checking. As long as the child lives in your house, which is later and later I'm noticing, as long as that kiddo lives under your roof, you get to have control over what's happening in their world to a certain extent. So evaluate your child's maturity level and make that decision as best you can. If it's one that you're not comfortable making, it's probably because you know they shouldn't have one. Don't disregard your feelings. As adults, we are very good at rationalizing things. This is not happening the way it's happening. Like, I'm seeing it, but that's not what it is because It could be this, or this. Don't rationalize things. If you feel that your child isn't ready for one, it's because you know in your heart that they're not. You know your kiddo better than anybody else. So hold firm, even when they beg and plead and kick and scream. Make those rules for them and stand by them. I know it's not a firm answer, but that's the best I got.
There's one more application that we have noticed that we did for my son. It's called Force Field, and yeah.
Oh, okay.
And that one keeps track of pretty much what application he deletes, what application he puts on. You can keep track of pretty much.
Is there any cost for that app?
$11.99 a month. So
$11.99 a month. Yeah. And it's not uncommon. There's more and more technology out there that has a small monthly fee.
Right.
Some smaller than others. I've seen some that are like $60 a month. Going, that's kind of steep. But is it steep when we're thinking about our kids' safety? And if my child needs a little bit more monitoring, I think I might find that $60 a month just to make it happen. Thank you. Force Field, the name of that one. Force Field. Question in the back.
Also, another one is Covenant Eye.
Covenant Eye?
Covenant Eye.
Okay. There's so much out there. I love it. I love parents are having control over things.
$15 a month.
15 a month? Great. That's a good one. Thank you.
So how do we keep up with newer trends, whether it's newer trends in bullying or newer trends or newer actually techniques for us to track that and monitor that and be better at learning this early enough and defending our kids early enough? Is there some sort of like some sort of a annual conference, training, seminar, anything that will help us keep up with the new trends?
There are annual conferences on bullying. I think they're more for officials who go out and speak on these different things, but that doesn't mean you can't sign up for it and go. My best answer for that is going to be Google and talking to your kids. Talk to the younger kids especially, because maybe they're not so into it, they're not going to tell you about it, but they're aware of it. I think Google is your best friend. Just type in recent trends with internet, with applications or with bullying, and you'll find a slew of information. Some from kids themselves, some from adults who have noticed other things with their children, and then also networking with other parents. I don't have the knowledge or resources to put together conferences like that. I kind of wish I did, but there's so much changing all the time that it's even hard for me to keep up with. So everything changes daily. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes. We all thought that we were getting a good handle on Facebook, and then the kids were like, see ya. No more Facebook for us. Now that's the adult table at Thanksgiving, and kids just visit because we have better food, and then they go back to their kid table and hang out. Snapchat will become the next fleeting thing no one's using anymore because too many adults are on it. They'll find something new. They'll make something new. I think the best we can do as parents, and if you find something better, please share it with me. But I think the best we can do for right now is just to keep Googling it, to keep checking up on it. And if you find an app that alerts parents to something new coming on the horizon, I would love to hear about it. That's my best horrible advice for the subject. I'm sorry. You guys are challenging me with some good questions. I like it because I need to have really good answers for these things, and I feel ill-equipped at the moment. But it's good.
Another question about TeamSafe. You said it shows what's going on their phone, on your phone.
Yes.
Is it real time or does it store it?
I believe it's real time.
So
when a message pops up on their phone, it's going to pop up on yours, which could get really overwhelming. But that's.
So if you're at work and you don't see it when it comes up, you miss it. It doesn't store it.
Oh no, it should store.
Oh, I see.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. Just like any message that comes in on your phone, if you don't answer it right then, it's still going to be there. Okay. Yeah, that's my understanding of it. TeamSafe.
Sexting doesn't have to be pictures. It can be words. Yes.
Sexting can be words, but it's not going to have the same child pornography stuff with it. Yes, sexting can be words, because technically pornography is just defined as any sexually arousing material. So if it's verbal, if it's words, that can be considered pornography. However, it's not going to have the same weight that a picture or video would, as far as I know.
I have a comment. Most of the videos that you showed, the parents did not think their children would go through with what they were experimenting with. So I think when you say you know your children, sometimes, you know, parents don't know their children because they're put in situations where they compromise their, you know, their ethics or their beliefs. So it is good to check even if you know your child.
Absolutely. Yep. I want to believe I have a really good kid, but even really good kids make really bad choices sometimes. And unfortunately, I know far too many stories of really bad choices resulting in really, really horrific consequences for that child or for the family. So yes, you're absolutely right. You have to kind of keep tabs on them. And again, if your child starts making choices that you notice are compromising or bad or horrible, you have the right to take those devices away. You have the right to assign more chores, or maybe they learn a new instrument or something else to do with their time so that they're not being monopolized by this cyberbullying or bullying thing. Do you have a comment or a question?
Actually, I want to recap on what Demiana said. It's the website that we need to Google more and look out for resources that helps us out, because internet is not always bad.
Correct.
As a matter of fact, if I want it to be helpful, it has all the tools that I can need. And we're saying this because we're adults, and we kind of have the line of demarcation between what's good, what's bad, what's white, what's black. And we need to get this in our advantage. Just throwing the words, as you mentioned earlier, is definitely gonna bring up good websites. I can evaluate it, I can share it, I can ask, and this is what I actually do sometimes when I am faced with anything I don't know about. Instead of calling, nobody answers me, or going to somewhere, I have this at the fingertips of my hands.
Right.
So instead of just taking it in a passive way, I need to get on top of it.
Don't wait for me to come out and give a presentation on this stuff, because I'm in the same boat with all of you going, what's out there, what's new, what's happening? Take on that responsibility for yourself, and trust me, I'm talking to me as much as I'm talking to you right now, and do the research often. It's ever changing, just like we mentioned, but we do have the ability to try to stay up to speed to a certain extent. Yes, ma'am.
I see all the questions coming from the ladies' side. Is there a reason? Gentlemen?
Hey, we have.
I promise I have a comment on the question. I am currently taking a criminal justice class at CSUB.
Okay.
And
one thing that we have been learning in, we're covering what classifies child pornography versus prostitution.
Okay.
And one thing that I have noticed, like from my research and stuff, is that when kids send out like those photos that they think, oh, no one else is gonna see it, there have been times where on websites like Craigslist, if you search up like adults, like there's a tab on Craigslist that has adult stuff, and you have to check a box that says you're 18 or older, and they sell children on there for sex here in America. Yeah. You know, and it all started with like a photo that was sent to some random kid or who they thought was a kid.
Human trafficking.
Yeah.
It's not just a problem in the United States, it's actually a huge problem here in Kern County.
Bakersfield is one of the top cities that's receiving child pornography and human trafficking and all of that.
Yep, we're a hub city because we have the 99 freeway that connects us to I-5, which connects us to Oakland and San Francisco. It also connects us to Anaheim and the LA area. We also have the freeway that connects us to Las Vegas, and these are all huge hotbeds for human trafficking. And just a little background on human trafficking, it is the second most lucrative crime in the United States. It follows very closely behind drug trafficking. It used to go drug trafficking, weapons trafficking, human trafficking, as far as the top 3 illegal but most lucrative crimes. Human trafficking just passed up weapons trafficking. The reason is that if I have a gun that I want to sell you illegally, if I sell you the gun, I have to get another gun before I can sell somebody else a gun. Whereas with a person, I can sell you today, I can sell you tomorrow, I can sell you 20 times a day, I can sell you 30 times a day. You're gonna make me a lot of money and you're reusable. You're a valuable commodity. Plus, if I get more than one person, if I get 2, 3, 4, 5 victims, which is very, very common, I can make a whole lot of money off of you. The average age of entry into human trafficking for girls is 12 years old. For boys, it's 9 years old. Predators are looking for our children through social media. They're looking for the kids who are willing to take those compromising pictures, yes, but they're also looking for the kids who are sharing that, oh, my life is so awful, my parents are so bad. Blah. They're looking for those kids because if I go to that kid and say, hey, you want to come just hang out for a little while? I'll take you to the mall, I'll buy you some new shoes, like just some new clothes. Those are the vulnerable kids. Of the human trafficking victims, well, just of the United States, our foster youth account for 1% of the population in the United States. However, our foster kids account for 60% of human trafficking victims. 60% of our human trafficking victims. If you have the resources, if you have the heart, if you have the time to foster a child, I want to encourage you to foster a child because they need good parents. Because they are slipping through the cracks. And they are getting sucked into this horrific world of human trafficking. Being hooked on drugs, their bodies are being sold multiple times a day. And it's not just the girls, it's the boys too.
I personally know a little boy who was trafficked, and he was like this little angel of the neighborhood. You would have never known.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
I want to say thank you so much to Rachel. Can we give a round of applause, please? That's my wife, Rachel. So at the Coptic Festival, which is next weekend, just go see her and bring your family and she'll give you dinner. And when we're ready to give our kid a cell phone, you're invited to dinner at our house and bring a gun. You're a blessing to this city, to our county, so thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it.
I can't add more. I really appreciate on behalf of all the congregation. It's really very informative and much updated for me as well. And we're waiting to see you with any more update. Feel free to shoot us an email and we're going to have some time for you here. Okay, thank you again, Risha. Let's stand to pray, please. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. Hear us, Lord, and we pray thankfully, our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those trespassing against us, and lead us not into temptation. Deliver us from the evil one. Christ Jesus our Lord, for thine the kingdom, the power, the glory, forever and ever. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. Now the love of God the Father, the grace of his only begotten Son, our Lord God and Savior Jesus Christ, the gift of the communion and the joy of the Holy Spirit be with you all. Go in peace, and peace of God be with you.